Hey everybody, Joe here. Thanks for tuning into Psychedelics today. This is the continuation of our interview with Lenny Gibson. So part 2 of Lenny Gibson's interview. We get into a little bit more about holotropic breathwork and psychedelics and philosophical implications, some stuff about people getting lost in the physical aspects of the experience, whereas there's a lot of gold to mine on the interior level. A lot of great stuff. Hope you enjoy it. And let me know what you think. Leave us a review on iTunes or even subscribe so you can keep in touch and see what we have coming up in the future. Thank you all for listening. Take care. Bye-bye. And I found it interesting reading about Spring Grove back when they were doing psychedelic experimentation there in Maryland, where for the bulk of the experience, they would be in this nice, safe indoor space. And then on occasion, when the weather permitted, they would take people out into the yard and the end of the experience, at the end of the peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you did the majority of the work internally, and then you could experience some of that outside.
Well, to integrate. By removing external stimuli, that aims you inward. But you can get lost in the external stimuli. I mean, if you spend some time in Haight-Ashbury, it was all external stimuli. It's amazing out there.
This is very true. We live in a very beautiful world.
It's to me, everything is amazing. I mean, Walt Whitman, he says, and the hinge in my hand puts to scorn the finest machinery, and a mouse is miracle enough to stagger sextillions of infidels. Mm. Yeah, I mean, the psychedelic stuff is useful as a ladder. It's useful because we don't have, the Western culture has moved so far away from tribal community and the immediate encounter with spirit.
Mm. I remember watching this video. I don't know how true it is, but somebody talked about Maria Sabina, the Mazatec curandero that gave Gordon Watson the mushrooms. But later on, supposedly from this video that I was watching, it was about like the history of mushrooms or something like that. And they were saying like Maria Sabina regretted giving and introducing the mushrooms to Gordon Watson and his wife because the Western civilization is really focused on the external use of it. Like we're very visually oriented and we like to see the colors and the beautiful things. And, and she said in her culture is all about going inside, looking at the emotions, interacting with spirit. And so...
However, that's not the way you discover antibiotics.
Right.
Okay? So, in order for the world, the universe is, we're evolving. Mm-hmm. Okay? And, although I'm not a great partisan of Hegel, I think that he did give voice to a way of looking at process, which was that you start with this and that begets its opposite, and then they can be brought together in a synthesis. Okay, so we had to move away from the world of spirit in order to develop the technology that we need to manage the planet.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We definitely need a good mix of both.
So, but it's more than a mix. It's this thesis, antithesis, synthesis stuff. We have to go to this completely materialist, secular perspective in order to develop because a chemist I knew in Tulsa, he'd say, look, the big problem is that the sun only lasts for 9 billion years. What are we going to do? And right now we're halfway through that. The sun's already been going for 4 billion years or so. So we only got really probably a couple billion at most left before the sun begins to expand, and the planet is toast. I mean, the sun, as the sun burns up, it expands and expands and expands. So, in a couple billion years, we're toast, unless we figure out a way to get to the next star.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, literally turning the planet into a spaceship and piloting it. His suggestion was to kind of build an enclosure around the sun, and then use the sun's energy to power us to the next usable star.
Interesting.
So, I mean, people thinking, that like the climate change, well, it's not going to happen for 100 years. 100 years? What about a billion years? Just don't think just because it's only, you've got a couple billion years that you're off scot-free.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to think about these things. And so what we're doing now is we're beginning to develop, we're just at the really beginning of the technology to because human beings will never, the essence of human beings will never be replaced. Okay. This is a superb mechanism, combination of sensors and mechanisms. Okay. It's pretty good. And we're good enough so we can figure out how to deal with this long-term problem. And we develop these computers, and we'll develop interfaces with them. And I think we can do it.
Who knows what the future has in store for us?
Well, the future doesn't have it. The question is what we have in store for the future.
For the future, right.
That's I'm playing on JFK's. Right.
I'm reading. Do you know Neil Stevenson,
Yes.
fiction writer? I'm reading his Seven Eves right now, where an event happens and humanity needs to get off Earth.
Right.
And it's a 5,000 year long story, so it's broken up into like 7 years, and then 5,000 years later you get the second set. So I just finished the whole extrasolar epoch. It's quite exciting what the planet could do if it knew it had to do something quickly.
But instead of getting off planet, the idea is to take the planet with us.
That would be a lovelier solution. They didn't have that option in this story, but yeah, it would be
Spaceship
nice.
Earth.
Yeah. Bringing
Take it
Bucky's
with us.
dream.
And visit. The best science fiction I've ever read is Olaf Stapledon's Star Maker.
Star Maker, I'll check that out.
Star Maker. It's recently come back. It's in the last few years. It's come back into publication. It was a rare book for a while, but Star Maker by Olaf Stapledon, and doesn't involve rockets or anything. Okay, it's a psychological, cosmological story. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we probably should wrap it up soon. But can you think of a compelling? So say we were talking to somebody and thought that they might find breathwork interesting. How do you personally try to talk to people about it?
I don't
think they might be a good candidate.
Well, are you curious? I mean, if you're not curious, forget it. If you think you know everything you need to know, don't, this is not worth your while. But if you wonder, if you wonder about the nature of things and who you are, you might find this interesting. But if you don't, you go watch TV or something. Go to the movies.
It's leaving me curious.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why go to the movies? It's just somebody else's story. I've got this good story. I mean, there's every week we can. Movies are boring.
Some movies are good.
Oh, I don't know. I just find them, well, first of all, they're all staffed by very young people who are pretty naive. And then again, you got somebody like Harrison Ford. Why the hell would you bother?
Mm.
I mean, it gets exciting. It's a group activity, It can be interesting to be in a movie, to be acting in a movie as a group activity, I suppose. Like I enjoy playing music because it's a group activity. But I'd much rather play music than listen to it. Mm-hmm. I only listen to it to get ideas.
Yeah.
I wish I were a better musician, but it takes years of practice.
Don't we all?
So go ahead.
I was going to try to bring it to a close, some sort of conclusion for us.
It's hard to convince people of the worth of something who don't have a conception of worth. The secrets of the universe are right before you. And people overlook them. Why save for retirement so you can play golf? Or Ronald Reagan, Secretary of the Treasury, Donald Reagan, who ended up at odds with them because he could see that it was all a pyramid scheme. He retired, but then at some point he took up painting. And when he was quizzed about why are you painting, he says, well, golf and cocktail parties only last for so long. And then you got to do something.
Yeah, it's true.
So why wait for retirement? To start discovering your creative possibilities. Why not? Why not do it now?
There's no real promise of tomorrow, so yes.
Well, I mean, forget the promise of tomorrow. Go for the promise of today.
Or the promise of right now. So, yeah, do something interesting that you're curious about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, why waste your life doing something that is not... I mean, sure, if you're starving and you got to do something to get food, okay, it's worth that to stay alive. But, if you can provide for your needs, why not? Find something interesting. If you're doing something that isn't interesting, why? I mean, you only get a certain amount of opportunity. You can. Very few people on their deathbed say, "Oh, I wish I could have done more bookkeeping."
For some people, that is their thing, but yeah, very few.
Well, if you're really into it, a good bookkeeper. I mean, I'm not when you put down any particular form of activity. If you can really get into it, and then, and it nourishes you, well, that's what else do you want? Mm-hmm. So why bother retire? You would only retire if you're doing something that you don't like. Or another maxim is never take on any career that you have to retire from.
Mm. Words of wisdom right there.
I was trying to think of another. Something about. No, it's a thing about being, when you get too old and dumb and stupid to appreciate being old and dumb and stupid, then it's obviously all over. But there's
Kyle,
nothing
this is
wrong.
platitude therapy.
Yeah, platitude therapy. I claim to be the principal originator, to be the originator of platitude therapy. It's a very effective tool, but it's too easy. I need more challenges, but the appropriate platitude delivered at the appropriate moment is the key to enlightenment. Well,
that's why the guys in the Zen books usually don't say too much. They just deliver it right at the right time.
Durrell. What's his first name? I forgot. Lawrence Durrell wrote a series of 4 books that are referred to as the Alexandria Quartet. I recommend that as the last piece of literature I really got off on. And it was the premier intellectual novel of the 50s. And each of the first 3 books in the series looks at the same period of time from a different perspective. 3 different perspectives on the same duration of time. And then the 4th one kind of picks it up in a bundle and carries it forward. And it's a quartet. And within the quartet is an author, as a character who's an author, who's writing a trilogy. And in the British edition, there's a bunch of cuttings that were left on the cutting room floor of the author who's producing the trilogy. And one of the little snippets goes as expression becomes more profound, it becomes simpler, until in the end, the most profound truths are platitudes or tautologies. And he says, so one can understand then why religious initiates communicate not by word, but by symbol. Mm. So a comedian named Ernie Kovacs was one of the first comedy people on TV. He did live shows on TV and had great tricks like a family sitting around a breakfast table and getting into an argument. And the father, frustrated, he picks up a carton of milk to pour in his cereal, and he pours it, and instead of going to the cereal bowl, it goes out at an angle. Well, the table was mounted at an angle, and the camera was tilted to make it look like straight. But one of the little set pieces that I remember from, this is, the 50s, and the show was, he had these guys in gorilla suits. There was a guy, a piano, a drummer, a pianist, a drummer, and a saxophone player. And they were in gorilla suits and wearing Homburgs. And they just played the same little ditty over and over again. Like, bum, 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 bum. When it came to the bum, 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 the drummer would go, and he had these mallets, the drumsticks with little balls on the end. And he went to he would play on the Homburg of the guy in the saxophone. And then the guy in the saxophone, the ditty would repeat, and the guy in the saxophone would turn and give him a dirty look. And that was the whole deal. The little ditty, the apes, the dirty look. That was it. And just repeated several times as a skit. Oh. I heard an interview with Imogen Coco, who was Kovac's wife, a few years ago. And the name of this group was called the Nairobi Trio. And it turned out that it was a huge honor to be allowed to don one of these gorilla suits and participate in the skit. Elvis Presley, even, was in this skit. I mean, everybody, you know. And then I realized the Nairobi Trio was a play on the Alexandria Quartet, because one of the big themes in the Alexandria Quartet was the animal nature at the core of people. Mm. This is a pretty incredible joke.
It's quite elaborate.
Yeah. So, well, okay.
Thanks, Lenny.
You got to shut me off.
Yeah. Where you have a website, right? People could look up. You have an article on one of your websites about Whitehead. If people want to read that, or is that Lenny?
LennyGibson.com.
LennyGibson.com. And what about the Breathwork website?
It's dreamshadow.com. There's links between them.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Lenny. And
thank you, guys. It's been just piles of fun.
And that is it for part 2 of our interview with Lenny Gibson. Hope you found something useful there. I know I did. If you want to keep in touch with what we have coming up in the future, feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. If you're not sure how to do that, reach out and I'll try to help you. If you have any suggestions for guests, feel free to reach out to us on our contact form on psychedelicstoday.com. Thanks again for listening and hope you tune in again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.